Hi, I know that virtual teachers, we have a lot on our plates right now in terms of transforming all kinds of paper resources and PDFs into digital manipulative or digital resources for the kids. And I know, especially in the younger grades in primary, the kids benefit from using physical manipulatives, and those aren't always available at home. And sometimes getting them onto a website can be confusing or time consuming, or it's difficult for you to collect that data from the students. So I'm going to show you a couple ways that make it a little bit simpler to collect this data in a slide. So I'm going to begin by opening up a new slides presentation, and I'm going to be using master slides. Master slides essentially are these templates that come up. So if I click on one of these, I can add a slide that has that information on it. And in this case, there are placeholders, so I'm able to actually type and manipulate these. However, I can arrange it so the kids cannot type or manipulate what I'm adding onto my slide. And I'll show you what I mean by that. To get into master slides, I need to go to view and I need to go to master. And my slide deck, all my choices here for the templates I can bring in show up along the side. I always begin with a blank slate because I want to create my own backgrounds. I don't want to be using these standard ones. So I just get them right out of the way. The first slide under layouts, I can't actually get rid of that slide. That's just my base slide. But all the rest, I can just keep hitting delete. I can get rid of them all. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this blank slide and I'm going to Control V, paste it in there a few times so that I have space to work with. If I go back over here to my standard slide deck, I can see they're all just blank now and there are only the 6 slides that I've copied in there. If I go in master slide and I type something, placeholders allow the text box to be written on in the standard slide. However, if I insert just a regular text box, hi, this is a master slide. If I go back my standard, this cannot be picked up, it can't be dragged, it can't be deleted. It's almost like inserting it as a background, but I have a little bit more control over what the formatting is going to look like. I can do a picture and insert it as a background, and that works for some things. Personally, I find the image either becomes grainy or it gets stretched or parts of it get cut off in order to make it fit on the size of slide that I have chosen. So I really prefer working with master slides. I'm going to first go to the OCDSB scope and sequence, the diagnostic tasks. And these slides are great. However, I find the students can delete information off of them if I just make a copy for my students. And also, some of them are linked to websites, whereas I'd prefer to have everything in the slide. I'm going to show you first just the basics using this slide here. In order to pick up everything off this slide, I just start in the top corner and click, and I drag a rectangle along everything that I'd like to copy. So everything is highlighted now. So when I hit Control C, the entirety of this slide is going to come with me. I'm going to go into my master slide, make sure I click on the slide here, and Control V, everything shows up. So again, the students cannot move any of this. But that's problematic because I do want them to be able to type in the type boxes and I want them to be able to move these tiles around to show themselves what numbers they can make and to experiment with that. So I'm going to go into my master slide. I'm going to click on this number 1 and I'm pushing shift and I'm going to hold down shift and click on all of the items I want the kids to be able to manipulate. Then I'm going to go Control X to cut. I'm going to head back to my standard slide and Control V to paste. And one thing I love about this is all the formatting stays the same. My text boxes are in the exact same position as they are on the master slide, which is the exact same position as they are on the diagnostic task slide. So now, although my kid can't move my instructions, they can double click in the blue box and they can write their number. So a number that's close to 40,000, if these are my options, maybe I'm going to choose 40,084. And if the students needed to show their work, if they really had to think about it, so 40,000. And actually, I just realized I made a mistake here. I can't do 84, it has to be 81. I was reusing my 4. Thank goodness for physical manipulatives. So, um, I'm going to show you one more example here. I'm going to go into my master slide and I'm going to click on my next one. And in the diagnostic tasks, I like this one. So again, I'm going to highlight everything, control copy on my master slide, control V. However, I don't want the students to go to this website. I want to have this right in my slide, and that's very doable. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to delete this picture, and I'm actually going to insert a box where the kids can do their work. Often, when they're doing a worksheet or if they're doing something that's a printout, there's going to be a shaded box or a large, bold outline box where the kids know to drag or draw their manipulatives. So, in order to do that, I'm simply inserting a shape. I'm going to make it a rectangle, and I'm going to say they have this much space to do it. I want this text box to be available for the students to type in. But if I look over here on my slide's not showing up. And the reason is, again, it's a template. So I go to my drop-down menu and I can find this one. To make it even easier on yourself, you can label them in the order you want them to appear, or you can put the name of what's actually on the slide if you're planning on doing something with a lot of slides. So can't move it. I'm going to go back to my master, Control X, and on my standard slide, Control V, and it shows up right in place, and now it can be typed in. I bit the bullet and just bought for 20 bucks. I bought a whole package of digital math manipulatives, which have really served me well. If you don't want to pay for them, you can go online and search for some. Based on copyright law, if you're using it within your classroom and it's not the sole item on the page, it's not the only thing that the students are looking at or using, I think that you can safely use that in your Google Classroom as long as you're not selling it or reproducing it for other people. So in this case, I do have some that I've purchased. So I'm going to insert an image from my drive. And everything is really nested here. So it's going to take me a second to get to it. Need to get to math, digital manipulatives. So I purchased this mega bundle. It has everything from counters to clocks to hundreds charts and fraction tiles and pentominoes and everything. Um, and I got it from Bunny on a Cloud. My only issue with it is that the measurements are in imperial instead of metric. So again, I'm not being paid to plug this, but it really has been a good investment, I find. So I'm going to go with just the standard orange base 10 blocks because that's what my students are used to. And I'm just going to drag my image over. I also can click on it and click insert at the bottom. That's going to do the same thing. And I'm going to show you how to make a stack. So this is a huge game changer for me because if your kids are older, they can often copy and paste things themselves and make copies of it. But for younger kids, that can be quite a struggle. They don't know how to do it or it's very time consuming. So I'm going to start with this and I'm going to click on this unit. Control C, I'm going to hit Control V a whole bunch of times. And I'm going to show you how to make them into a pile. So I drag a box around the manipulatives I want to include. I'm going to go right click, align horizontally to the left, right click, align vertically to the top. And now I have a pile. I can move that pile over here. And when I click off of it and I go back, now each one of these is going to be pulled out separately. If I put it down in a spot and I decide, oh no, I don't want it there, but I don't want to move them all over one at a time, you just highlight again over the whole stack and the entire stack will move as one piece. So I'm going to do this for my 10 rods. I'm going to add in some 100 flats, and I'm going to add in some thousands cubes. So now I have my stacks, and if the student writes a number, let's say the number they choose is 10,231, they can drag over the manipulatives. So 1, 2, 3, hopefully they'll line them up neatly for you, etc. I'm not going to drag over all 10. Then they can add in their flats, their rods, and their unit. Um, you might want to resize this based on how much space you have or how big the number is. If they're dealing with two-digit numbers, you can make them bigger. If you want to resize an entire stack, again, drag over it and resize it, and everything on the stack, everything that's selected will be resized to the same proportion. Um, my other piece of advice is if you're doing another slide, you can just come and copy this stack and insert it onto a different slide instead of having to even redo those manipulative stacks every single time. It might be a good idea to just start a blank slide and just have all your piles of everything there so you can just grab and go. Because at first I was redoing it every time, and then I realized that this is a much simpler way. I'm going to show you now. If you want to keep watching, I'm going to show you how I would do a math up question into a Google slide. So here I have math up, and it's money. Um, I want them to represent 55 cents in 3 sets of coins. I always zoom in my screen because I use screen snip, and I find it gets fuzzy or blurry if it's a small picture that I have to enlarge. So I'd rather go with a large one, and it keeps its shape and its clarity a bit better. So I'm on a Windows computer. I'm pushing Windows key Shift S. It's going to be different on a Chromebook. And I can just grab this, copy it from my clipboard, and paste it into my master slide. Now, if I have something on there that's distracting, like here it says visib, I don't really need that. I can just insert a shape. And since this is in the background, it's not going to move around. So once it's there, it just kind of blends in. So I'm going to make it white, and I'm going to make a white border. And then when I look at it, that distracting piece is gone. So I want the kids to show me 3 sets of coins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert 3 workspaces for them. And I'm just going to copy, paste, copy, paste. If I wanted to, I could do each one a different color so that the kids maybe can see it more clearly. If you have students who need some of those visual cues, I'm just going to leave them gray for now. And when I go back here, again, I need to insert it, and nothing can be moved. You can search for images right in here. I don't always have a lot of success because they are filtered for reuse. So I didn't have any luck getting Canadian money. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that right off of Google Images. So I'm going to go Canadian quarter PNG. I find one that I like. I can tell it's PNG if it shows up with a white background in my initial image, and when I click, I get those tiles in the background. If it already has the checkerboard here, then it's not going to show up as a PNG. That checkerboard is going to stay in the background. I can copy paste this in, but another shortcut is to just click it and drag it to your workspace. And then when you release it, it just shows up. So now I'm going to resize this. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to make it a little smaller because I don't have a lot of space in these boxes. Copy, paste it a whole bunch, align horizontally left, align vertically top. And now I have a nice stack to draw from. I'm going to do the same with dimes and nickels. So now my student, again, I've made these piles so they can show me 55 in 3 different ways. And I can just see it really quickly, one glance, all on the slide. without having to go to a different website or to mess around with kids taking pictures and sending that into my email. One last idea that is I find useful in math is the idea of doing a T chart. So you can insert a table and just do a 4 by 4. If you wanted to sort into multiple categories, you might want or sorry, a 2 by 2. You might want three across, three columns, however many you want to sort it into. I do find this finicky every time I drag up my top line here to make my title a bit smaller. The bottom also lifts up, so it's a bit of a back and forth game there. If I want to make it really bold, I can change my border color to a different color. I can make my lines thicker. If I want some of it to be transparent, I can get this little double-sided black arrow and click. And if I hold down the shift, I can get rid of, oops, for example, this one's a little bit touchy because it's such a delicate maneuver here. Um, Maybe I'm not going to get that to work just now. You can also make your border color transparent. If, for example, I didn't want sides on my chart. There we go. So it would look something like that. In here, I'm going to label one 2D shapes, and I'm going to label the other one 3D figures. I'm going to head over here to just grab some. So I'm going to say, let's say a cube. It's not going to work. A cube PNG. And I'm going to look up a circle. You can also just insert your own shapes at this point from um, the Google Shapes up there. Insert shape. And then I can include these over to the side, and my students, without moving my table all around, are going to be able to drag and drop. So I realize I've just made an error, and I mean, I do this all the time. It's a bit of a learning curve. I've inserted these on my master slide, which means they're not going to show up on my standard slide. So I'm just going to Control Shift to pick up both, Control X to cut them. I'm going to insert my slide here, and Control V to insert them. So now the students can't move this around, but they can drag the figures and shapes into the correct spots. So these are just a few ideas of how to use Google Slides and how to create draggable digital manipulatives for kids to use, and easy ways for kids to show their work, as opposed to having to draw it out and send you a picture, or instead of having to just try and explain what they're doing, or just give you their answer. So I'm using it in grade 5 and 6, and I'm finding it pretty useful, particularly for place value. So I hope that this cuts out a little bit of your time. I know that it's an exhausting job right now.